Lately, I've been realizing that the life that I dream about isn't built in some distant, perfect moment. It's built right here, in the habits that I choose when no one is watching. Every quiet morning, every small promise that I keep, it's shaping the person that I'm becoming. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, over and over, until one day, it's simply who I am. And today, like every day, I get to decide. If you're not taking Celtic salt water, what are you even doing? I swear, this is one of my favorite habits of the 12-week year that I've started. Celtic salt is very, very high in trace minerals. There's over 80 trace minerals. It really helps give your body the vitamins and minerals that you do need to stay hydrated. And I find that whenever I take my salt every day, all you do is get a little bit and you put it on your tongue like this. It gets very, very salty. The membranes on your tongue go ahead and start soaking in the minerals from the salt instead of it just dissolving in the water, which is why you want to put it on your tongue and not directly in your water. And then you drink water after putting the salt on your tongue. It's getting very salty. You know how whenever you drink a lot of water or you start to up your water intake, you gotta pee a lot. I noticed that whenever I do this, I don't pee as much because my body's actually holding on to the water and it's actually hydrating. It's a very small habit, but I feel like a lot of us don't think about how the smallest things that you do every single day carry the most weight. You become that person in those quiet, in-between moments, like taking your Celtic salt water whenever no one else is watching but you, and you still decide to show up anyway. If you saw my previous video, you'll know that I just started another 12-week year, and this one just feels so different than the other ones, and it feels almost more impactful in a way because I feel like I have finally made the mental shifts that I have been working to make for the longest time. There are so many times where I set out to build really good habits. I was so excited, and then I would end up sabotaging myself and then end up in this like all or nothing cycle, and then before I knew it, I was right back where I started. We all know that infamous yo-yo effect. She likes to make her appearance here and there. And what I've learned over and over again is that habits built on self-punishment don't last. When your motivation is coming from the standpoint of shame, fear, disappointment, the process is always going to feel heavy. And that's why the habits don't stick, because it's literally rooted in rejection and in disappointment. But habits that come from self-respect and from a desire to actually care for the person that you're becoming, those feel different. They're lighter, they're more natural, and they actually last. And a lot of the times what we call procrastination is actually just fear in disguise, whether it's a fear of change, a fear of failing, or just the fear of disappointing yourself again. I know I've been there. I've literally procrastinated before in the past of starting something new because I just felt like every time I started something, all of these crazy events would happen, or like everything would hit the fan just because I decided to start something for myself. And it was truly just self-sabotage. Like, I would look for things to go wrong whenever I would start a new challenge or say I'm gonna build a new habit, and subconsciously looking for those things to go wrong always gave me the excuse to stop. So if you've been struggling to stay consistent, please hear this. You are not lazy. Your mind is literally just trying to protect you. And in order to heal from this, you don't need perfection and you don't need pressure. All you need are to take very small but intentional steps. And these steps have to tell yourself that I am worth showing up for. And the version of you that just keeps showing up even after all the setbacks, that's the real you. That is who you're fighting for. So today, as I go through some of my 12-week year, I want to share with you a few of the things that have really reframed my perspective so that I could actually stick to the habits that I set out to build and stop letting myself down. Part of my 12-week year is to do a 30-minute workout at least 5 times a week. And today I just kind of feel like going for a run. So that is what we're going to do. The weather is beautiful outside. There's not a single cloud in the sky. And I'm just the kind of girl that feels so guilty just sitting inside all day or not getting outside enough. So why not get outside and get a workout in? I've actually never have been a runner. I used to hate running so much because I would get so bored. I just prefer like HIIT workouts or circuits, just something that keeps me engaged and I don't just like do the same thing for 30 minutes. But I just want to get my mile time to be at least around average, a little above average, which would probably be around like the 8-minute mark. So we're gonna see if I can do that today or how close I can get to that today. Don't know how that's gonna go, but let's do it. Man, I did not hit my low 8-minute mark goal. I hit maybe like around the 9-minute range, but honestly, I think I'm slower on the prettier days. I'm kind of like a squirrel and I just get distracted with everything around me, like the flowers, the palm trees, you name it. I'm looking at everything, even the pretty birds. I used to be so strict on myself whenever I was building habits. I would literally get so hyper disciplined to the point where I couldn't make any adjustments. And yeah, it's good to have structure, but if you don't have any flexibility, it's literally just gonna lead to burnout. Nothing I ever did felt flexible and it didn't feel forgiving. And that's what I've really learned, is that you can plan everything. You can map out your entire day, but until you are in the thick of it and you are in the grind, you're not gonna know what works. You're not gonna know the changes that you need to make, and you have to go into it with the mindset that it's okay to pivot. When you are in the grind, that is when the learning really happens. Not whenever you're sitting at your desk, planning out everything and expecting things to go a certain way, because I promise you, life will throw you curveballs, and if you can't respond to those curveballs in a appropriate fashion, you are going to burn out and you are going to end up disappointing yourself again. Through all of the times that I have started and stopped habits, and just even through my own wellness and self-development journey, the one most valuable lesson I feel like I have learned that I really want you to hear whenever I say this is that you are allowed to start over as many times as you need to. Progress is not linear, and starting over does not mean that you failed. You only fail if you don't get back up and try again. It's a sign that you are literally willing to keep going. And it's not about how perfectly that you start, it's about just being able to last. And that's kind of how I felt with YouTube. I started my YouTube channel back in 2019, so 6 years ago as I'm filming this. And I almost did not start because I was so self-conscious of my acne scars. I didn't know how to talk to a camera, but I wanted to be a YouTuber since I was 12 or like 11, around there. I loved makeup videos and fashion videos, but really since then, that was whenever I developed this love and this passion for YouTube. And the journey has given me so many lessons, and I've been through so much. Between filming through a pandemic, I lost my dad to a surprise heart attack in 2021, and going through the grief of that and YouTube being my clutch, and then at the same time Cooper's dad battling brain cancer, which thankfully he went into remission. But truly, life just never ever seemed to stop. And also building a real estate business and just having to learn to show up when I didn't feel like it, in my grief, in my exhaustion, because my passion for YouTube pushed through. And as you can see, I am here 6 years later, 2025, still pursuing YouTube because that is my dream and it is my goal. No matter how many times I've restarted, no matter how many videos flopped, no matter how many times that I just felt so lost, I still kept going and still just kept pushing because I truly believe and there is no wrong amount of times to start over. And I actually heard a quote from Joe Rogan's podcast. He was interviewing the filmmaker Robert Rodriguez. He was talking about the films that he'd worked on that were considered flops, and he was asked like if he could go back in time, would he not go on those films? And he said no, because if you can dig through the ashes of your failures, you will find the key to your success. I thought this was so profound and just put everything into perspective, because yes, there are times when things don't work out the way that you plan, but if you can go back into what you would consider a failure or just something not working out, you learn from that. You learn what worked. You learned what did not work. And that is what you can apply in the future going forward, and that's just more knowledge that you can use to your advantage. So the next time that you are on a habit building journey, you're starting a 12-week year, whatever it might be, and you fall off track or something happens, do not call it a failure. It's feedback, because now you know what didn't work. You know what did work. And again, it is only failure if you do not get back up and try again. And failures and stumbling are very, very normal in any process, whether you're getting in shape, you're building a career, whatever it is, building habits, it can be anything. Stumbling is just part of the process, but quitting is not. Don't let what you've done in the past discourage you from starting something new. Use it. Let it shape you and use it to your advantage. So I'm feeling really, really good after this run. It's, again, such a beautiful day outside and this breeze feels amazing. The humidity hasn't kicked in yet, so I'm just like soaking up all of these days as much as possible. But I did work up a sweat, so we're gonna walk home, get showered and get clean, and I'm feeling having a protein shake. I kind of go back and forth between having a high protein meal after working out or a protein shake, but I saw a new recipe on TikTok that I found I really want to try. So let's get home, let's get clean, because I think I'm starting to smell myself. This is actually pretty good. I'm getting like a PB&J with a banana on it. So if you like peanut butter and jellies, this would be really good. If you don't like the peanut butter, just kick out the PB2, which Cooper doesn't like peanut butter. He's kind of a weirdo. That's okay, just more for me. This was a win. Definitely a good post-workout smoothie, lots of protein, and not too bad on calories. So good little option. I'm glad that we gave it a try. But I wanted to share something that's really helped me in building habits and actually getting them to stick. It's that I realized it's not just about like what I do, but it's about who I am becoming. And that shift in identity, that choice to just step into that version of yourself, that's whenever everything really changes. Because your future identity is shaped by all of the small choices that you make. James Clear actually talks about this. Katie's joining us. In Atomic Habits, and he talks about how every choice that you make is a vote for the person that you want to be. And you get to decide every single day and in every moment whether you want to cast a vote for your past self or you want to vote for the version of you that you are becoming. And you get to make that choice. You get to say whether or not you want to stay in the old patterns or you want to be that version of you that's healing and growing and evolving. That's where your true power lies. And whenever you can identify as that version of yourself that is the best you that you can think of, that is whenever the shift really happens, because you'll start doing the things that that person does, because you identify as it and you become it. So that's really the biggest thing, is just making that identity shift, because you can never grow into something new if you're identifying as something that you used to be. You can't hold on to all these old patterns and these old thoughts and beliefs and expect to become somebody different, become someone that is on a higher level than that. So you have to step into that identity. And that's something that has really helped me on my habit building journey, because those habits are, just like the book says, atomic habits. They are foundational. We're made of atoms. They're the foundation of our being. And habits are the small things that make up who we are. That's one of my favorite metaphors that he talks about in the book. And I'm actually rereading Atomic Habits. And I felt kind of silly rereading it, because I feel like I read it once, I should know it. But truly, whenever you reread books like this, you catch things that you didn't before. Things resonate with you very, very differently. When I first read this book, it was like 2021. No, I'm sorry. It was 2020 when I read this book. So that was 5 years ago as I'm filming this. And I was a totally different person back then. I hadn't had the experiences that I have now, and the knowledge I have now, and the growth that I've had now. So as I'm reading this, like, things are just hitting different. I'm reading it in a different headspace. And I don't think that back then the lessons in here had fully landed with me. And not because they weren't powerful or that they weren't good lessons, but because I wasn't ready yet. So I had to go live a little bit more and stumble a couple more times before this stuff actually stuck with me. So this is your sign. If you have any books that you've read in the past, but you still feel like you're falling off of your game or not really listening to what it said, even though you heard it, but you may not be listening to it, and there's a really big difference there. I'm really grateful to be rereading it, and these are books that I feel like I will reread for the rest of my life, because I do think we need those reminders. And again, as you get more experience in life, as you stumble a few more times, I think that it's really good to go back to these kinds of books, the books that make you feel good. They give you that guidance. Whenever you read it in a different state like that, it's almost like reading a new book or reading it for the first time, because you're catching these different things. Or maybe you do read the same thing and you remember reading it, but now it just, like, it hits different and it processes better and it really resonates with you. And then you carry that forward and become an even better version of you. And every single day I am reading 10 pages a day at least. So I'm gonna go ahead and get in my 10 pages and sip on my smoothie. But if I read anything profound, I'll make sure to share with you. But after this, I do have some work to do at my desk. But it's very exciting work, because it's actually work for you. And I think it is going to make such a big difference for you and really, really help you if you're struggling to build good habits. So let's get our reading in, and then I will show you a little bit more what I'm talking about. Such a good smoothie. I just found one of my favorite metaphors from this book, and I remember reading it 4 years ago, but he talks about an ice cube sitting on a table in a 25-degree room. The temperature changes to 26 degrees and nothing visibly changes with the ice cube. 27 degrees, nothing changes. 28, all the way up to 31 degrees, nothing visibly changes. But then you get to 32 degrees, and then you start to see the ice cube melt. I love the point that he makes here, because all of those little tiny shifts led up to this big moment and this big change, and that big change couldn't have happened without those tiny shifts. Just because you couldn't see progress didn't mean that it wasn't happening. And habits are the same way. You show up, you keep going, even if it feels like nothing is happening, because you might just be 1 degree away. But what if you quit at that 31st degree? You know, one more time and you'll see these big changes. And that really stays in the back of my mind whenever I'm thinking about reading or working out and I'm not in the mood to do it. I think about that metaphor, because I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel like it. And while I don't see any immediate results from it, that doesn't mean that it's not helping. That doesn't mean that it's not helping me make progress. That progress is coming. She will make herself known, but I have to put in the work. That one small action step could be that next big degree for you. It could possibly be the shift that changes absolutely everything. On the days that it feels like you are struggling to show up, just remember that every single day counts. Even if you are not seeing the results yet, if you can focus on just becoming 1% better every single day, by the end of a year, you will be 37 times better than you were whenever you started. It goes both ways. So if you can show up on the days you don't feel like it and understand how important every single habit is that you do, and when you show up to it, even whenever you're not in the mood, you're not seeing the progress, you're working out every single day and you're not seeing the abs, you're not seeing the scale come down just yet, you have to put in those tiny shifts, because those tiny shifts matter and they will lead to those big moments and those big goals being reached. Just focus on making those little choices for yourself, because they really do compound into you becoming that best version of yourself. Okay, Katie has joined the party. Katie, this is not, nope. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my last couple of pages, and then I'm gonna show you exactly what you can do to make it as easy for yourself to show up on the days when it's the last thing that you wanna do.
I don't think about it. About you leaving me.
Here's the thing. If you want your habits to actually stick, you don't need more willpower. All you need is to build a system that's going to work for you. And I don't mean something really complicated. I don't mean anything that's super rigid, just something that's simple enough that's gonna take away the guesswork every single day for you. You should not constantly have to fight to stay consistent. You need something that you can just step into to where it almost feels like muscle memory. And I'm sure you've heard the quote from Atomic Habits, but you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the levels of your systems. And it's so true, because it's not your big vision that gets you there. It's the structure that you put in place for whenever the motivation fades. Because we all know how flaky motivation is. I always like to say that she's like that friend that always says that she's gonna be there, but then never shows up, or just shows up whenever she feels like it. You can't rely on her. But your systems don't have to be perfect. They just have to be sustainable. It needs to be something that you can just return to, even on the days when you're tired and life feels super messy. But that's what makes a habit actually stick. It's not how bad that you want it, it's how well that you design the path to get to it. Because a goal is a momentary change, and systems actually last, because you can get to the goal and feel that initial excitement, but I promise you, after a day, a week, a month, you're gonna look around and be like, okay, well, what next? And then you're gonna default to your bad habits. Versus a system, it becomes your habit, and you create that identity for yourself, and it's just a lot deeper than just hitting a goal. So instead of just pushing yourself harder, because we know that's going to lead to burnout, why don't you ask yourself, how can I make it easier to show up for myself to where it almost just feels automatic? It feels like muscle memory. It feels like routine. And then you'll get to a point where you just feel lost without your system. I know you're probably so fed up with hearing me talk about it, but I'm going to mention it anyway because it's part of my system. And that is my habit tracker pad from Amazon. I rip off a page from this and I put it into my planner, and I do this every week. And everything that I do in the 12-week year, I just put it onto here and I track it throughout the week, and then I transfer it to my Notion. I'll actually show you how I do it. So I put my action board in there. I printed a 4x6. So I've clipped that into my planner, and then right underneath it, I put that sheet for the habit tracker for that week underneath it. So I know that whenever I go in here to my to-do list, I need to check in with that. And that just keeps me accountable. It helps me not forget, because you can get pretty busy and just be like, I don't have time, but It's complete BS. You have plenty of time. It's just your priorities. But I can link this in the description box again if you'd like. But truly, the secret to finding a system is just finding what works for you and then doubling down on it. So for me, I love pen to paper. I love planners, but I also love the digital side. But my primary source is my planner, and I love my planner so much. It's a Day Designer, and that is my main hub for everything. But like I said, I love a little bit of physical and digital, so I just created a system to combine the two. And of course, my habit tracker pad is just a way for me to make sure I don't forget to do anything, and the satisfaction of bubbling those little things off it's just so great. I enjoy it so much. That's just what works for me. If you are a pen to paper gal, go all the way with just pen to paper. If you're a digital era girly, go for it. Use Notion, use your notes app, your calendar app, your reminders, whatever you like, use that, and just figure out how you can make it so simple that all you have to do is show up for it, to where it starts to feel like muscle memory. And I know for me, I've made checking in with my habit tracker such a habit that in itself, I know it's kind of ironic. I made it a habit to check off my habits. Anyway, it feels weird not checking in with it. It also really helps to reward the emotional win and not just the action, because every time you show up for one of your habits, you are creating evidence for yourself and therefore building the trust in yourself. And that is invaluable, because the second that you lose trust in yourself, it's really hard to get it back, because you just don't trust anything that you tell yourself. But whenever you do show up, you are just proving that you're the kind of person that follows through on what they say. And that little sense of pride and satisfaction that you feel whenever you check off something, it matters so much more than what we give it credit for. Because let's be honest, we build habits because of the way that they make us feel. We work out because it makes us feel amazing and strong. We read every day because it makes us feel mentally sharp. We meditate to regulate our energy and feel more in tune with our spiritual side. We do these things for the emotional win at the end of the day. But this is why I actually created something super special for you, and I am so excited to show you. I have created, which is what I was working on that I was talking about earlier for you, is a Tiny Wins habit tracker. I will have this linked in my description box. It is completely free. You don't have to put in your email. This is genuinely to give you some guidance if you feel so lost right now, you don't know where to start. I've been there where I feel like I've just gone so far down. I look right, everything's a mess. I look left, it's more chaos. And you just don't know where to pick up the pieces. But this is just a way for you to build momentum to get you closer to that better version of yourself that you're so proud of. It's just a stepping stone. But basically, I called it the Tiny Wins habit tracker. So the very top, I can actually pop it on the screen here. It might be a little bit easier for you. I made it where you can print it. It's just a Canva template, so you can modify it to your needs. It's super simple, so if you don't have a printer, you can just write it in your journal. You can write it in your phone, whatever works for you. So I have my 3 tiny habits this month. I want you to just focus on 3 habits to build. I don't care how small that they are, don't care how incremental they may feel. Focus on these 3 small things. It could be drinking enough water. It could be waking up at the same time every single day. Whatever you feel like you need to do to give you some momentum that you can build on later, that is what I want you to focus on. After you pick your 3 tiny habits, you're going to talk about who you're becoming. I want you to write the version of you that you are becoming. I want you to create a clear vision for yourself. Because you can think of a million different things, but if you can come in with a dialed in vision of what it is you want, what it is you're working for, what does she look like? What does she embody? How does she dress? How does she feel? What habits does she do? Just really put that into your head and get as clear as you possibly can, because that is going to push you through whenever you don't feel like showing up for those 3 tiny habits. So after you get super clear on who it is you're becoming, I want you to write why you are becoming this person. Why do you want to be this version of yourself? And this is where that identity shift happens. And it's so incredibly important to understand psychologically why you want this, because that's going to push you through on the days where showing up for these 3 habits is the last thing that you want to do. I promise they will come. Life will throw you curveballs, but you have to return back to this why, because that why is the core of your identity shift. And at the very bottom, I put a little habit tracker. I only put 21 squares because it takes 21 days to build a habit. So just focus on these 3 habits for 21 days, and I promise you will feel like a new person. You will have momentum, you will build trust in yourself again, because like I said, I have been there when it has felt like everything is a mess. No matter where you turn, life feels like it has just crumbled to dirt and you don't know how to clean it up. So this is where you can start. This is a stepping stone to even bigger things, and you can do this again after the first 21 days. You can repeat this whole thing, but I do feel like that this is such a simple way to get you some traction and to start building that trust with yourself. So I will have this linked in my description box. Like I said, I made this completely just to help you if you feel like you don't know where to start, because I've been there and it's a sucky feeling. And I wish I would have had something like this, because it would have helped me so much. But it's completely free. You don't have to put in your email or anything. You don't have to pay anything. It's just completely for you and for you to modify however you like. So I will leave that Canva link in the description box below. And if you do print it, I did make it where it wouldn't use a ton of your ink, because I hate when I get printable anything and there's a ton of ink and I'm like, I don't want to use all my ink on this one thing. So I made it very simple for you, and it wouldn't take all of your printer ink, but it's still cute. While habits do build your life, how you feel while doing them, that's what builds your identity. Because we have this little misconception as humans that change comes through these massive breakthroughs, when in reality, it could be just from a 2-minute habit that you do every single day. And doing them over and over again, it just becomes who you are. And whenever you do mess up, because you will, you have to respond differently. Most of us are taught to just start beating ourselves up the second that we slip up, because we have these high standards for ourselves. But the real growth happens whenever you talk to yourself with kindness instead. Literally nothing good comes from beating yourself up. You deserve to be spoken to in a very inspiring, respectful manner. So that's how you should talk to yourself. If you do slip up, just give yourself some grace and say, okay, it's totally okay that I missed this habit. It's totally okay that I skipped this day. I'm gonna do even better tomorrow. If you slip up, really focus on how you respond and react very differently than what you would in the past. I could literally sit here and talk all day about habits, but I really hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope you got a lot of insight from it, especially if you're feeling really down in the dumps. And if you give the Tiny Wins habit tracker a try, whether you jot it down in your notebook or print it out, whatever you do, if you give it a go, let me know if it actually helps, because I just wanted to create a tool for you that will help give you some guidance and some clarity, because like I said, I wish that I had that whenever I was starting my own self-development journey, and just to give you some guidance, because sometimes we just need it, and that's totally okay. I'm here for you, and I enjoyed spending the day with you. I am so grateful for each and every single one of you. Again, if you give the habit tracker a go, let me know, and I hope that this video gave you some inspiration and actually helped you out. If it did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below so that I actually know. And thank you so much for being here and for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!